Hello, everybody. We're back. Scott Freymuller and Shelly Netco with The Knot. So we took a break, did a wardrobe change, different shirt, same day,
Same color.
and we poured some wine, and we were going to talk about kids, and then somebody snuck in a deal on scorekeeping. So I'm going to have to catch up on this one because this is going to be funny. So we started talking about. We did a thing on sex.
Sex is a weapon.
Sex is a weapon,
Yep.
and it had a bloody knife on it.
It did.
And then you somehow associated that to scorekeeping.
Yes.
So and then I made this really funny face, and then that turned into this conversation about. I don't know if you guys know, but if you don't know the words to a song and you just say watermelon, then apparently it makes you look like you know how to sing. And we just learned that too, which this
Yes.
is bitching. Like you can't.
No, we're learning new skills every
Right,
moment.
Right, because this should be fun as we do this.
It is
right?
fun,
So
yes.
anyway, so now, because I only know like the first 4 words to like 3 or 4 songs, and that's all I know.
It's pretty much me.
So I'll just say watermelon after that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how it goes.
So scorekeeping, I have no idea what we're doing, but I'm sure I'll catch on here in a second. So
You're going to know.
Fire off with
You're
this.
going to know in 2 seconds. So the conversation was about sex as a weapon. And
With the bloody dagger.
yes.
Right.
And we were talking about how it's all about scorekeeping because I mentioned that you knew exactly how many times you had had sex in that segment of time, in that period of time.
Yeah.
So you were scorekeeping.
Yeah.
And
Oh, is
then-
that what that was?
That's scorekeeping.
That's a technical term for it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, you're scorekeeping.
Right.
Because you're like, oh,
I put it on my
okay,
calendar.
yeah, 10 times, 1
Okay.
year, whatever.
Okay.
So that's scorekeeping.
All right.
But scorekeeping goes beyond that in an unhealthy relationship,
Oh, yeah.
which is when everything turns into a quid pro, right?
Yeah.
You can't just do things because you want to do things. You
Right.
can't just do things because they feel good. You do things because you want to make sure it's a tit for tat, right? It's like, oh no, I did that last time. It's your turn. Like, what are you talking about? I did that, and no, you didn't even thank me. So
Right.
why should I do that again?
Right.
So it's a very score-keeping mindset of a relationship, which is extremely unhealthy and
It is.
damaging. Now you know where I'm at.
Now I know where you're at. Wow. All right, well, you should probably just keep going. This is the first time I've ever been like,
that's
I'm
why I
lost
want
for
to know what you
words.
think, because
What do I think?
I know you understand it, and I know you can relate to it.
I don't know. I mean, what do I think about scorekeeping? I think it's bullshit. I think it's super unhealthy, like you said. I think I'm gonna have another sip. I don't even drink wine. I drink Captain and Diet.
Well,
and this shit's good. Like this is good.
That is. Tell me why you counted how many times you had sex, and this isn't going to be a sex thing, but tell me why you counted. Because scorekeeping means something matters.
Makes me sad to think because it's so unhealthy. Like I kept score in my last relationship too. My last I don't want to say my last relationship, like my last big, important relationship. I did it because I couldn't believe it. Like it was sort of like a gaslighting thing. Like I kept score to keep track so like I could have data
Okay.
because I couldn't believe it. You know what I'm saying?
What was the data uncovering?
Like that I was right, that it's not okay to have sex once a month or once every month and a half.
But underneath the "I was right" is something about what wasn't right about it.
Everything wasn't right about it.
Okay.
Me like doing whatever. We can't say that again.
No.
But me jerking off to an iPad was super. That was like unhealthy.
Yeah.
It was control. It was sort of manipulation. It was like, wow, that's my child's mind, right? I think it was a little bit disrespectful. It was a lie because we didn't communicate about it. So there's a whole bunch of problems behind scorekeeping. Thanks for putting me on the spot, by the way. But that's really good. Like making me think about that. Like there's so many unhealthy things about that it's never good. But then there's the opposite. Oh shit, here we go. Then there's the opposite of that, and there's a scorekeeping of when you do something bad. Like for example, if
Wait, are you saying your scorekeeping that you did was good?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying like say somebody, I don't know, like say you go out one night and you don't come home, and then like the next week your partner does the same thing.
Right.
And they're like, well, you fucking did it last week.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like that. Like there's that scorekeeping too, where if you do something wrong, then it's okay for them to do something wrong too, because you did something wrong. And that's like super unhealthy, right?
That's more, that's revenge and scorekeeping.
Yeah, that's revenge and scorekeeping. Yeah. So, but we go back to scorekeeping means there's not love, in my mind.
Right.
Because that means that you're attaching you're putting conditions on your love then, which isn't healthy as we know.
No, it's
right?
not love.
And I didn't have anything to say, but now I have all this shit to say.
Weird.
Surprise. So, and I think back in relationships, and I remember in the healthiest ones, there wasn't a scorekeeping thing.
No.
Now, there's also this thing, like forgive, and the past is the past. To a certain extent, yes. Mm-hmm. I think once you deal with it and you come to terms with it as a couple, then yes, the past is the past. But you can't just like erase shit.
No.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
And that
if
becomes
it's-
scorekeeping
and if it's-
sometimes
yeah, but
because
if
you
it's-
didn't deal with it.
If it's significant, if it's a significant thing that happened, you have a discussion. You both come to an
Agree.
understanding.
Yeah.
You forgive each other or forgive whoever needs forgiveness or whatever the situation is, and then you both say, okay, well, let's get past it. Then you have to get past it. So then what often happens is you move forward and then something else happens that is similar or a trigger or whatever it is, and then the angry person references whatever that was, and then all of a sudden everything comes out, and then it's a list of everything that ever upset them. Then that's another version of scorekeeping, right?
Oh, that's huge. And some of the reason why they do that is for gaslighting. Because they mask what they just did that was super shitty by, well, wait a second, 4 years ago you did this.
Yeah, and 3 years ago
You
you
did this.
Yeah.
And look what you did, and look what you did. And then you're in the position of, okay, do I list all the stuff that you did, but you don't?
No.
And you just kind of sit there and take it, like you take your whooping, you know what I mean? But it's totally negating whatever the real issue is on the table and what's really going on presently, which just, quotations is a lie, right? Then you're not living your truth again.
Sure.
And you're actually not solving any freaking problems. So scorekeeping is like a super red flag, unhealthy thing.
Huge red flag.
Yeah. So,
But it's even in the smallest things. So the indications are like I said, I did the dishes last week, it's your turn. I did the dishes last night, it's your turn. I cleaned up after dinner last night, it's your turn. But when there's like the tone of anger or like the consistency behind it. So when
Yeah.
there's consistency and when there is definitely like a resentment factor, then that's a sign that like something bigger is going on, and that's when something needs addressed before it turns into the huge thing.
but isn't there there's healthy scorekeeping too? Like today, we were treated to lunch.
Oh, yeah, no, that's different.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, in a relationship, you can do that too. Like when you say, hey, whatever her name is, Gwendolyn or Georgette, makes dinner. And you're like, hey, babe, like, I'll do the dishes.
Such
you know
a
what I mean?
random name.
I don't know. Like, that's,
Funny. Go ahead. I like it.
I don't know. Those are names of
They both start
motorcycles
with
and
G's,
cars
by
that
the
I've
way.
had. So, anyway. But, no, like, if that's a healthy way to do it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a healthy way to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's obviously everything healthy
'Cause, like,
has a
you're giving
healthy
and taking.
side. Yeah, it
Yeah.
has a healthy side and unhealthy side.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so in my relationship with my husband, we had this concept of the cookie jar. And it was our relationship is a cookie jar, and we always need to have cookies in it. And both of us are responsible for putting. And it's emotional. It's a whatever. Somebody needs something. You need.
Did you have a real cookie jar with cookies in it? Or is this like
No, I had a real
make-believe
cookie jar for my kids, but I'm talking about like the relationship cookie jar.
thing? Okay.
So it was, if I'm having a down day and I just really need, whatever, I need more support. I need to just like, I don't know, go get away for an hour and get away from the stress of everything, whatever. Or he did the same. We were both responsible for putting the cookies in the cookie jar of the relationship. But if you get to a point where one person is putting all the cookies in the cookie jar, then that's a problem.
Yeah,
Because
for
then
sure.
the other person is a taker. They're
Right.
internally focused.
But that's also setting healthy boundaries, too.
I understand.
Well, I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying that like in a general
No,
statement.
I know.
right?
Yeah. So it's the healthy version of it versus the unhealthy. So
The cookie jar.
So to me, it's the cookie jar of life and the cookie jar of a relationship. And you look in one day and it's empty, and your spouse or your partner
Is all fat from eating all the cookies?
Actually, that could be a thing because I do bake some pretty good snickerdoodles. But there's no cookies. You feel like something is disconnected. Your partner's resentful. Your partner is passive aggressive, and they're keeping score of absolutely everything you do. Then maybe part of the problem is you, and people won't look at that.
Well, I think the part of every problem is you. So, yeah, I mean, and that problem, right? Like, you don't set the boundary like we said. And then, like, you have, you know what I mean? I shouldn't have said fat. That was rude. But you know, they eat all the cookies.
I
You
know
what
what
I'm
you're
saying. It was
talking
a
about.
joke.
I know what you're talking about. Obviously, you eat a pack of Oreos every night, you're going to gain a few pounds. I know what you're talking about.
That's the thing. I just don't buy Oreos because I can't stop. Like if I eat one, that row's gone.
Right.
Like that's not an option.
Right.
That's how. And when you eat Oreos, you break them apart. Here's another lesson. You break them apart first, and then you eat the cream off, and then you eat the cookies separate. Isn't that how you do it?
I don't eat Oreos, but I get you.
Of course you don't eat Oreos. You don't put that shit in the
get you.
temple, huh?
No.
But anyway, so now we're off topic. So back to scorekeeping. So you're talking about like unhealthy behaviors in the relationship, and you're talking about people that are already resentful. You're talking about people that are already angry. You're talking about people that aren't communicating. So all those things are going on along with the scorekeeping. You're not working as a team. You don't have your cookie jar thing. That's a really good example, by the way. That's really helpful. Like when you think about it like that, you know, if you take one out, you got to put one in. You know,
Or maybe not every time, but you know, you take a few out. Like you go a few days. Say you have a few bad days, or you're busy with some project work or whatever. The kids are, extraordinarily busy, and you don't have time. Make it a point to be intentional and get your cookies back in the cookie jar. Because when you look in there and you see there's no cookies and your partner's resentful, people who stand there and go, "Where's the fucking cookies?"
Right.
Those are the people that are like on the wrong path.
Well, too, but then you're like, if you're like, part of that is good, right? Because you didn't set boundaries, and that's just an indicator of that. But part of it's also good because, how do I say it? Like, I don't know. It's like you don't want to give to expect something in return.
No.
Right? Like,
No.
because that's conditions again.
Right. That's why I said it's
I
not
guess,
one
like,
for one.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That makes sense.
Because you have to be in tune, connected, and understand.
Sure. But the cookie jar could be empty sometime, like if they're sick,
Oh, I
or like
understand.
something's going on in their life
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's not always like equal,
But it should never get that
but
low.
it should never get like super low.
It should
That
never
makes
get that
sense.
low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's good. I mean, but that's just one more thing. I've never really thought of it scorekeeping wise, but I guess
Scorekeeping is a big deal.
yeah, and especially in the negative way, like the tit for tat thing.
Yes.
I used to hear that. It was funny. Like I always heard the word tit for tat, and I was like, but that's not me. Like I'm not getting anything in return. Like you're saying that, but it's also like a gaslighting tool. You know what I'm saying? To try and avoid or distract from the actual issue that's happening. You use those terms, tit for tat. You know, scorekeeping, or you know what I'm saying? Like you use other things and you bring up the past, and it just becomes a circle of bullshit that takes all fucking day and doesn't go anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's such a thing. That's such a a stress in life.
It is very stressful.
Super stressful and tons of drama.
Because
and
you
can't,
wake up worried.
Right.
You go to bed exhausted and
Yeah.
upset usually.
Right.
You know,
And you don't sleep super
And it's
well.
usually people who say, "Don't go to bed angry." Well, guess
Yeah,
what?
whatever.
You might not go to bed angry, but you might go to bed over it. Right?
Or you know, they're sleeping in the room or whatever. Like all those toxic,
Yes.
stupid things that you
Yes.
do to just totally break up. Yeah, you're like leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, leaving without leaving.
Yeah, really, like leaving the relationship without leaving the relationship. It's such a statement that says so much.
Back to what you said. If you look at somebody, they're always telling you where they are.
They are always telling
Always
you. Where they
telling
are.
you.
Always. They are always telling you, yeah, you're right. But you don't want to believe it. You make up this
No.
fantasy about what's really happening,
Sure.
and you think like you can fight it, and you can like make it better, and you can be a better person, and you can go to counseling. And honestly, the bad relationship or ships or whatever helped me get to where I'm at right now. Because I kept thinking, like that attitude that I have of like never die, never say never, you can figure it out, you can be better. Like that's how I got here. That's why I went to counseling so much, right? Because I kept thinking like this has to be me. Because I was told it was me. So I got to fix it. But that's a really great thing because I grew and I understand now. And then I got to EMDR from trying to do that, right? So it ended up being a really good thing. Like, thank God that happened. You know what I mean? Like, thank God. But
Well, and what's tragic for so many people, I'm going to say tragic, and I think you might support this, is they spend their time pointing the finger at the other person
Always.
and blaming and making all of the problems in their partnership the other person's fault. I did that for quite some time in my last relationship. And not looking at yourself is probably one of the most toxic things you can do. And not owning up to your part in something.
and not saying you're sorry. That's the thing too. We always talk about, you know, this isn't necessarily related to scorekeeping, but we always talk about talking outside of your relationship. And when you're in that world, you're like, oh, hey buddies, look at what he did to me, like that mother or she did to me or whatever. And then you're alienating your relationship from your friends and your family also. And it's super, super toxic. Like, you can't recover from that. Like, once you start doing
That's
stuff
a
like
subtle form of scorekeeping, though, when you think about it.
it is, right? Because now everybody else
Because
keeping
now
score,
I've
too.
got how many people
Telling
who
me
are all
you're
lined
a-
up telling me
yeah.
how great I am and
How much of a
how
piece of
horrible
shit.
my partner
Yeah.
is.
And
And that builds my case, which then, gives me something else for my next argument. I can say, oh, yeah, well, this is what so-and-so thinks.
Right.
Right?
Or not say that, but just have that negative
Exactly.
influence from what's going on over here where your partner doesn't even know.
Right.
And it becomes so toxic. And here's the worst, maybe not the worst part of it, but such a significant part of that is that if you're talking to your friends like that and they're like totally going along with it, that says something about them too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a buddy that did, I think I brought this up before, he kept saying like, oh, what was me, my wife, we're getting divorced, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, what'd you do? Because that shit doesn't happen by itself. Like, you were married to her for 15 years. You were with him for 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever. Now all of a sudden they're a total piece of shit. So what does that make you for the 7 years?
Mm-hmm.
Like, were you just like this innocent queen, angel, Snow White for this whole entire time, and this guy's just been a piece of shit and you've been hanging out the whole time? Right. That doesn't work.
No.
That's not right.
That's not how it works.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not how it works. Mm-hmm. But then they can also, in that scorekeeping to help build that, they can like manipulate a story to get you to react, and then call you out on that and share that with people too.
That's the purpose of scorekeeping, though.
Right. To get you to react.
Negative scorekeeping, that's the very purpose.
Yeah, it's like a manipulation tool.
Sure.
To get you to react, and they can be like, "Oh my God, look, look, look."
Yeah, to cause an argument to prove what they said was true.
Correct. Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Yeah. So the trick is to stay truthful at the beginning when it starts happening, or to call it out when you first see it in a positive way, obviously.
Sure.
Sit down, hey, what's going on? You seem angry about this, that conversation, versus get in the middle of the conversation, allow it to happen, allow many of those to go on, don't say anything, and know internally that something isn't right.
Right.
There's a mistake.
And actually care.
Yes.
And have that conversation with love. Like, I always just say that, like, if I get you argue, but you argue with love. Mm-hmm. Like, you argue with the intent of solving the problem, not the intent of being like, F you.
Right.
This is going to be
winning.
my excuse. Yeah, there's
It's
no
not
win.
it's not about being
You don't
right.
win when you're in love.
Right.
That's not a win. It's a team thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's not arguing. It's solving.
Yeah, it's solving an issue.
Yeah.
And
Arguing is conflict.
and sometimes you
arguing is
compromise.
accusing.
Sometimes you don't, but you're not keeping score on the argument
Right.
either. You're not like, fuck, well, I got him on that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're
No,
not
you
doing
can
that.
agree to disagree.
I agree
But
with
if
that.
you go into something with the intention of being right, nobody wins.
You sacrifice so much to be right. I forget where I heard that. I heard that
Because
the
you're
other
never
day.
right.
Well, it brings you misery, too, because when you're fighting to be right or when you're trying to be right, it creates so much conflict and anger for you to do that because it's control.
Which is wrong.
It's absolutely wrong, right? Because control is, and anger is control or a lie. So it kind of rolls back into that same situation where it's totally freaking toxic and messed up, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good on the scorekeeping.
Being right is wrong. Bottom
Being right
line.
is wrong, yeah. Like, because you're not keeping score. Because then we were going to end it, but now we can't.
I know.
So
Well, because I just wanted to make that point.
no, I'm not.
Having to be right is absolutely wrong because
It's
it's wrong
totally-
for your relationship,
And you're putting conditions on the love.
Yes.
Which is absolutely not okay.
which is not love.
If I could follow all the shit we talk about, I'd be like so freaking, god dang. All right, everybody, we appreciate it. Thanks, Shelly. Thanks for your input. And that was scorekeeping.
That was scorekeeping.